Welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly educational podcast. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist. And for this podcast, I have two topics. One is an update on what you can do to heal your thyroid. This is for people with either Graves' or Hashimoto's. They're really two ends of the spectrum, whether you're producing too much thyroid hormone or not enough, so the difference between hyperthyroid and hypothyroid. The other is about the cell phone use and its link to brain cancer. So I think both of these topics will be of interest to someone out there. So the first is about thyroid and a bit of an update. Now, I have a video on thyroid and how to heal your thyroid. It's on my Facebook page. It's also on my YouTube page, Dr. Thomas Brewer. So if you haven't seen that, I recommend you take a look at it. It's only a few minutes long. I believe it's less than 10 minutes. And I talk about things you need to avoid to heal your thyroid. And I'm looking at the periodic table, and I have my little pointer, and I'm pointing to fluorine, chlorine, and bromine. But the good element in the same family is iodine. So you eliminate the fluorine, chlorine, and bromine. I go into a lot of detail about that. And what I mentioned was one of the ways for us to get iodine is to use iodized salt. And most salts out there are not iodized, including Himalayan sea salt. So I recommended something like Morton's iodized salt. It'll say right on the front in big letters, iodized. So I got some questions that people thought that some of the processed foods like the chips and the crackers, so most of our snacks are salted, and they figured there must be iodized salt in those. And the answer is no. The salt used in processed foods typically is not iodized. Now, in order to get iodine, if you don't want to consume a small amount of iodized salt, I personally put a very small amount in my coffee, and I in fact learned that trick from Dr. Oz. But if you don't want to use any salt at all, occasional consumption of seaweed is a great way to get iodine. And it's also kind of tricky that you would think, since the iodine is coming from the ocean and you're getting it in seaweed, that the Himalayan sea salt with the word sea salt, you'd think there's iodine in there, but there isn't. But occasional consumption of seaweed is a great way to get iodine. You should not do it every day. Now, on the other hand, there's a product very common known as kelp, and that has too much iodine in it. So that is an overabundance of iodine. So be very careful consuming kelp on any sort of a regular basis, and even a large amount at one time is too much for us. But seaweed is great to use occasionally, perhaps just once a week if you are hypothyroid, okay, where you potentially need more iodine. Now, a supplement, the best one out there is known as black cumin. It's a simple spice, very inexpensive. It is one of the best ways to reverse Hashimoto's disease. And I've had some clients recently with Hashimoto's disease. I looked at their blood, and this is really for you folks. Okay, the next topic is something we're all interested in, and do our cell phones cause brain tumors? Now, I got this information from a guy I follow quite a bit, Dr. Michael Greger. He's an MD. He's very big on plant-based diets, so just about everything he says is very anti-meat and very pro eating fruits and vegetables, and he has all the scientific information to back it up. And I'm not going to talk about that because I've already mention this in general as we age, to consume fewer animal products and to consume more produce. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But Dr. Greger's information is always full of scientific literature. And so when he speaks, everything is backed up, and he references maybe 10 or 15 articles in maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So it's proof of what's really going on. So back in May 2011, there was a study done to see if there's this link between cancer and cell phone use. So as a bit of background, there are 5 groups to put a product in to see how it links to cancer. And this would be anything, whether it's a chemical or a radioactive element or X-rays or a food. And group 1 is the worst. So that's something that really causes cancer. And group 4 is essentially something that, as far as we know, doesn't cause cancer. Now, I said there's 5 groups, but I said there's group 1 and group 4. Well, in group 2, there's a 2A and a 2B. And the distinction is really funny between 2A and 2B. 2A means it probably causes cancer. Now, remember the word probably. And group 2B is possibly causes cancer. So 2B is worse than 2A. Possibly is more of a chance of causing cancer than probably. So it's very strange. So again, we'd like to be around things that are in group 1, and we really want to avoid things that are in group 4. So an example of a group 1 classification would be something like plutonium. And this is also interesting. Group 1 is processed meat. So that would be like processed lunch meat and hot dogs and things like that. Now, I bet a lot of you didn't know that processed meat is a group 1 cancer causer. I know of people that have breast cancer, and in just about every case, they consume processed meat. They previously consumed it on a regular basis, and they probably still consume it on a regular basis, and they wonder how they got cancer. Well, they're consuming a group 1 food. But anyway, it won't say that on the package. Now, this May study, again, listed cell phone use as a 2B group. So it's that possible word, possibly causes cancer. So then we move up to 2017. There were a lot of studies done, a lot of review articles, and this was what the final results were. There's a 33% increase in brain tumors amongst people that use cell phones regularly, and a 46% increase on the side of your head where you have your phone. So if you hear this, you'd think, well, then cell phones really do cause cancer, at least brain tumors. Now, if I go down to just texting, where I'm putting my finger on the phone, there's absolutely no evidence of a cancer link. So when these studies came out in 2017 about the 33% increase in brain tumors, people started using headsets and things like that and hands-free with their phones. And, of course, that really decreases the chance of tumors or any brain cancer or brain tumors, because the electromagnetic radiation falls off very fast with distance. It's the square of the radius. So every time you increase the length by 2, the fall off is by a factor of 4. So the effect of the radiation goes way down with distance. So there's a couple things we can do to minimize this effect on brain tumors for us. And these are really great. So this goes beyond using a headset. So when you connect your phone, when you make a call, wait for the connection to occur with the party you're calling before you put the phone to your ear. So the amount of radiation emitted from your phone is much higher when your phone's trying to make a connection than after the connection's made. Now, that's a simple thing to do to protect ourselves. I don't think it's going to affect anyone's life, and there's nothing you need to buy. The other thing is don't use these anti-radiation products, because what it ends up doing is it forces the phone to boost its signal, and that boost is more damaging. So those are the two hints. Now, just something to think about, even though there's this 33% increase in brain tumors, let's just say it's a 50% increase. Here are the numbers right now for brain cancer. The odds of anyone getting brain cancer are 1 in 15,000 per year. Those are really, really low. And let's say when you use a cell phone, your odds go up by 50%, even though it's 33%. Let's just say it's 50%. The odds would still be 1 in 7,500. Still pretty good. So I recommend you do what's easy and wait for the connection before you put the phone to your ear. Simple habit to get into, and don't use any anti-radiation devices. The final thing I wanted to talk about is I have scheduled my follow-up trip to Pennsylvania in the Myerstown area, and the dates are Friday, July 16th, Saturday, July 17th, and Monday, July 19th. At this point, I am taking appointments for those days. Those of you that already pre-registered or let me know you were interested, you get priority. But I have a feeling this will fill up pretty fast, perhaps within the next week or two. So it's that middle week in July. I will be at the same place I was last time, which is not too far from Myerstown. All right, so that's all I have for the podcast. As always, please don't keep me a secret.